You never expect something real to come from a place like Call of Duty voice chat. I mean, the place is a war zone in every sense. Trash talk, chaos, 12-year-olds screaming in your ear. But somehow, in all that noise, I met Jake. It started with a dumb match on a Sunday night. I had just gotten off work, exhausted, slightly buzzed, and looking to blow off steam. The game dropped me into a lobby, and right away someone said, "Great, another rando. Watch him be the first to die." That was Jake. Smooth voice, kinda cocky. I laughed and said, "Bet you $5 I carry your ass." Double or nothing. He fired back. I didn't carry him. We both ended up at the top of the scoreboard. But by the end of the match, we were talking like old friends. I don't know what it was, his voice maybe, or the way he cracked jokes without trying too hard. It didn't feel like just another COD teammate. It felt like someone I'd want to keep talking to. So I added him. 1 game became 3. 3 became 10. Over the next few weeks, Jake and I were on every night. His username was Wisco Warlord, which he immediately regretted telling me. "It was funny in high school, okay?" he said the first time I asked about it. "Now I'm just stuck with it." He lived in Milwaukee. I was in Minneapolis. We joked about our quote relationship a lot. "If I die, you better avenge me," he'd say. Quote boyfriend duties. It started as a joke, mostly. But somewhere along the line, things shifted. The late-night matches turned into late-night calls, even when we weren't playing. I'd be brushing my teeth and hear his voice on speaker, talking about his day. We'd fall asleep on the phone sometimes. He'd send pics. His dog, his dinner, a new tattoo on his forearm. I'd send selfies at the gym or goofy Snapchats with filters. It wasn't serious. Or so I kept telling myself. One night, after a match, we were just talking about stupid stuff. Movies, what we'd do in a zombie apocalypse. When I said, "Honestly, if we lived closer, I feel like we'd hang out all the time." Jake got quiet for a second. Then he said, "Yeah, I think about that more than I probably should." I didn't respond right away. But I didn't need to. He could probably hear it in the silence. Then he said, "What if I came to see you?" I blinked. "Like, actually?" "Yeah," he said, voice low. "I mean, it's only like 6 hours. I could drive down, stay a couple days. No pressure." My chest felt tight, but not in a bad way. "Okay," I said. "Come." He texted me the night before he left. "I'm serious, man. Don't flake. I'll be on the road by 8. I stared at the screen for a while, then replied, "You show up, I'll be here." I barely slept that night. The next morning, I cleaned the apartment like I was expecting royalty. I don't know why. I've had friends visit before, but this was different. Jake and I hadn't even FaceTimed more than a couple times. We mostly knew each other through voice, texts, photos. This was going to be the first time he'd be real, standing in front of me, in the same space, breathing the same air, and I was freaking out. He messaged me just before noon, stopping for gas, 2 hours out. I sent back a thumbs up, then immediately stared at my phone like it was about to explode. When he finally pulled up, I saw him through the window first. Messy brown hair, hoodie sleeves pushed up, his dog in the passenger seat wagging its tail like crazy. He stepped out and grinned when he saw me. "You're taller than I thought," he said. "You're exactly how I pictured you," I replied. We hugged. It was short, kind of awkward, like neither of us was sure if we were allowed to hold on a second longer. But it felt good, like really good. I helped him bring his bag inside. His dog, a chunky lab named Finn, immediately claimed my couch and fell asleep like he owned the place. Jake dropped his backpack by the door and turned to me with that lopsided smile I'd seen in 100 selfies. "So what now?" he asked. I shrugged. "You hungry?" "Starving. But only if it's something unhealthy and disgusting." So we got pizza, extra cheese, stuffed crust, zero shame, and sat on the floor of my apartment, eating it straight from the box. At first, the conversation was weirdly normal, like we were just old friends catching up. But every so often, our eyes would meet for a beat too long, or his knee would bump mine, and neither of us moved away. After dinner, we played a few matches, just like always, headsets on, trash talking, laughing. Except now he was beside me. I could hear his real laugh, feel the couch shift when he leaned back, see the way his eyes crinkled when he teased me for dying first. "Still carrying your ass," he said. "You're lucky I let you live." I shot back. It felt so natural. Too natural. Around midnight, we both drifted off the game and into just talking. The TV was still on, controller on the floor, the room dim, except for the glow of the screen. "You ever think about this?" he asked suddenly. "What, you kicking my ass in real life too?" He smirked, but there was something else behind it. "No, I mean this. Us. Meeting like this. Hanging out. After all the months of just talking." I swallowed. Yeah, more than I probably should. Jake didn't say anything for a second. Then he leaned back, one arm stretched along the back of the couch. His fingers were inches from my shoulder. "I like it," he said softly. "Being here, with you." I turned to him, heart thudding a little faster than it should. "I like it too." The silence between us changed then. It wasn't awkward. It was loaded. His eyes flicked to my lips and back, and I swear, if I had moved even half an inch, we would have kissed right there. But I didn't move. And neither did he. Not yet. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't even talk about it after. Eventually, we both crashed on the couch. Finn had curled up between us like a chaperone, snoring softly, his big, warm body a literal buffer. Jake had passed out with his arms slung over his eyes, mouth slightly open, completely knocked out. I lay there longer, staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing. It was calm, steady, familiar in a way I hadn't expected. I wanted to roll toward him, to say something, to see if maybe he felt the same tension I did. But I didn't. The next morning we acted normal. Made coffee. Took Finn for a walk. He stole one of my hoodies because he forgot to pack anything warm, and seeing him wear it did things to me I didn't want to unpack before noon. We went to a retro arcade that afternoon, one of those places with pinball machines, worn-out carpet, and a weird smell that somehow makes it better. We played Street Fighter until my thumbs ached, and then ducked into a nearby diner for greasy burgers and milkshakes. Somewhere between complaining about how bloated we felt and trying to decide if onion rings count as a vegetable, Jake looked at me and said, "This feels like one of those weird dreams, you know? Like, you don't really realize it's happening until later." I smiled. "Yeah, I keep thinking you're gonna disappear, and I'll wake up back in my room, headset still on." He stirred his milkshake with his straw, not looking at me. What if I didn't want to disappear? That shut me up for a second. "I mean," he went on, "not saying I'm moving in or anything, don't freak out, but like, I like this. Being around you, more than I probably should." My stomach flipped. "You think I don't?" He looked up then, and I swear to God there was this look in his eyes, like he was seeing me for the first time and all at once. We didn't say much after that. The drive home was quiet, but not in a bad way. It was like the silence had changed, less of a gap, more of a build-up. That night, back at the apartment, Jake sat on the edge of the bed while I brushed my teeth. When I came out, he was still there, fiddling with the hem of the hoodie he'd borrowed. He looked up when I entered. "I was going to take the couch," he said. "But your dog has claimed it for the rest of the century," I smirked. "I can make room. It's a queen bed, unless you snore like a tractor." He laughed, low and warm. "Only when I'm drunk. You're safe tonight." We climbed into bed, both staying firmly on our respective sides, at first, but then he rolled onto his side, facing me. His voice was quiet, barely more than a whisper. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah. That night, when we were on the couch, did you almost kiss me?" I exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I did." His fingers reached across the space between us and touched my wrist. Just a brush, but it lit me up like a wire. "I kinda wish you had," he said. I looked at him. He was so close now. Closer than any screen, any voice chat, any selfie could ever come close to showing. I didn't hesitate this time. I leaned in and kissed him. It was soft, careful, like we were both testing the idea of each other. His lips were warm, slightly chapped from the cold air earlier, and when he kissed me back, something settled in my chest that hadn't been there in a long time. We didn't rush it. There was no pressure, no fireworks, just two guys, under a shared blanket, trying to figure out what the hell this was turning into. When we finally pulled apart, Jake rested his forehead against mine. Guess I'm not driving home tomorrow, huh? He didn't drive home the next day, or the day after that. At first we kept it low-key, woke up tangled in sheets trying to pretend it was still casual, just chill weekend energy. He made coffee while I fed Finn. We'd bump shoulders in the kitchen like nothing had changed, but it had. Everything had. The way he looked at me now, it wasn't friendly. It wasn't flirty. It was full-on, I've seen you sleep, I know how you sound when you're half-awake intensity. And the way I looked at him, I couldn't help it. I caught myself staring when he was making breakfast, hoodie sleeves pushed up, arm muscles flexing like it was nothing. When he sat next to me during movies and rested his leg against mine, I didn't move away. Not once. One night, we were on the floor with Finn, tossing an old tennis ball back and forth, not really watching the movie we had on. Jake leaned back on his hands, looked at me and said, "This is gonna sound dumb." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "I've never done this before." I blinked. "Played fetch with a dog?" He rolled his eyes. "No, I mean, this. Us. Being into a guy." It hit me harder than I thought it would. Not because I hadn't considered it, I had. From the way he talked, the way he touched me, I'd suspected. But hearing him say it out loud made something in my chest go still. "You regret it?" I asked, not sure I wanted the answer. Jake shook his head. "No, that's the thing. I thought I would. I thought I'd freak out. But I don't." I didn't say anything. Just let the silence fill the room for a minute. Then he added, "It just feels real, like it was supposed to happen." That's when I kissed him again, this time with more certainty. And when we pulled apart, I saw it in his face. That looked like he was holding back 1,000 thoughts and feelings, but one thing was clear. He wasn't scared. That night, we didn't just kiss. We lay in bed, legs tangled, and he told me stories about growing up in Milwaukee, about the first time he realized he liked the way one of his teammates smelled after practice, but pushed it away. I told him about my high school crush who ghosted me the moment I came out. We stayed up way too late, trading truths we'd never said out loud to anyone else. And in the softest voice I'd ever heard him use, Jake said, "This is gonna suck when I have to leave." I stared at the ceiling, heart heavy. "Yeah," I whispered. "It will." But neither of us wanted to talk about that yet. So we didn't. Jake ended up staying 5 days. We didn't really plan it. Each night just turned into one more, until suddenly his overnight bag looked out of place, like it had been left there for weeks instead of days. He borrowed my clothes, learned how I take my coffee, walked Finn like he lived there. It felt weird how fast it started to feel normal. On the third morning, I found him in the kitchen cooking scrambled eggs, shirtless, hair all over the place. My hoodie was slung over a chair. His phone was playing some random indie playlist I didn't recognize. "This domestic life's gonna go straight to your head," I joked, grabbing a mug. Jake didn't look up. "Too late. Already planning where we'll hang this stupid live, laugh, love sign?" I laughed, but something about it caught in my chest. Because the idea of waking up to him every day didn't feel like a joke. It felt terrifyingly right. Later that afternoon, we went for a walk by the river. It was colder than we thought it'd be, wind picking up off the water, clouds hanging low, and Jake shoved his hands in his jacket pockets, squinting into the breeze. "You ever think about what this actually is?" he asked. We stopped near the overlook. Trees half naked, river gray and fast moving. I looked over at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean us. This. Are we just messing around? Or is this something real?" I didn't answer right away. I watched Finn try to chase a squirrel up a tree and thought about the answer I wanted to give. Then I said it, plain and simple. It feels real to me. Jake let out a breath I hadn't realized he'd been holding. He nodded slowly, like he was trying to absorb it. Yeah, he said. Me too. That night was the first time we slept facing each other. No space. No distance. Just limbs entangled like we'd done it 100 times before. At one point, I woke up and found his hand resting over my chest, thumb unconsciously moving, like he was trying to memorize the rhythm of my heartbeat. I didn't move. Didn't want to break whatever spell we were under. But spells don't last forever. On the 5th night, after a quiet dinner, Jake sat on the edge of the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through something with a tense look on his face. "What's up?" I asked. He looked over, lips pressed into a line. "My boss needs me back tomorrow." It was like being dunked in cold water. I sat up straighter. Yeah, of course. We didn't say much after that. We went to bed like normal, but the silence between us was heavy this time. And in the morning, the bag was packed. Watching Jake pack up felt like some twisted déjà vu, except now I knew how his hoodie smelled in the morning. I knew how he hummed while brushing his teeth. I knew what his laugh sounded like up close, unfiltered by a headset. Now I knew what I'd be missing. He tried to keep it light. Made a joke about how Finn had become too attached to me and might need joint custody. I laughed, but it didn't reach my chest. "You good?" he asked, glancing over as he zipped his duffel bag shut. I nodded. "Yeah. No, but yeah." Jake stepped closer, stuffed his hands in the front pocket of the hoodie he still hadn't given back. "This sucks." "Yeah." We stood there, in my tiny living room, the morning light slanting across the floor like it didn't care our world was coming to a stop. Finn lay by the door, tail thumping slowly, picking up on the tension like dogs always do. "I don't want to go back to voice chat," Jake said quietly. I looked at him. "Then don't." He exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "You know I have to." "I know," I said. "But that doesn't mean I have to like it." He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat of his body. He cupped the side of my face, his thumb brushing the edge of my jaw. I leaned into it before I could stop myself. "I don't know what this is going to look like," he said, "but I want to figure it out. For real." That was the thing about Jake. He didn't sugarcoat anything. When he said something, he meant it. And when he looked at me right then, I believed every word. I nodded. "Me too." He kissed me then, slow, lingering. The kind of kiss that tries to memorize. The kind that says, "Don't forget this part." When we pulled back, neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. I walked him out to his car. He loaded up the back seat while Finn tried to jump in with him. Jake laughed, pulled him into a hug, and whispered, "Traitor," before shutting the door. Before he got into the car, he turned back to me. "I'll call you when I stop for gas." "You better." And then he was gone. Just like that, the car disappeared down the street. I stood on the sidewalk until the taillights faded out of view. Back inside, the apartment felt different, like he'd rearranged the air while he was here. Even the quiet sounded like him. Later that day, my phone buzzed. "Jake." Pulled over at a rest stop. "Just wanted to say, I already miss you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "Me. Next time, I'm driving to you." The first few days after he left were hard. I kept thinking I heard his laugh from the kitchen, or that I'd see him sitting on the couch, hoodie sleeves pushed up, controller in hand, trash-talking me for missing a shot. Finn kept pacing around, sniffing his pillow and whining at the door. It was wild how quickly you could get used to someone being part of your world. But Jake kept his word. He called. Every night, without fail. We didn't always talk about deep stuff. Sometimes it was just dumb memes or rants about our day or whether cereal counts as soup. But it helped. Hearing his voice. Knowing he was still on the other end, even if he wasn't here. A few weeks later, he sent me a package. Inside was my hoodie, and a sticky note on it that said, "Returning this under protest. Smell too much like you? Distracting." Underneath that was a second hoodie. New. My size. His school's logo stitched on the front. Another note. This one's mine. Now we're even. I wore it for 3 days straight. A month after he left, we made it official, whatever that means in long-distance terms. Boyfriends? Partners? We didn't label it too hard. But it was real. And we both knew it. We started planning visits. I'd drive down, then he'd come up. Sometimes it was just for a weekend. Sometimes he'd stay longer. Each time, it got a little harder to say goodbye. But each time, we got a little better at figuring out how to hold on in between. And slowly, we built something. Our lives stayed separate in a lot of ways. His job, my projects, our friends. But we had this thread between us that stayed strong, even when stretched. We still played Call of Duty, still talked trash, but now we played in the same room more often than not. Eventually, we stopped calling it long distance, because Jake found a job in my city, something he said he'd only apply to just to see what happens. He got it, and 3 weeks later, he moved into my apartment. We kept it simple, no big gestures, no dramatic speeches. Just one night, he showed up with Finn, his duffel bag, and a case of beer, and said, "So I guess I live here now." And that was it. Now we're just two guys who met in the middle of chaos, who fell for each other between kill streaks and late-night Discord calls, who turned a random voice chat into something real. Sometimes I still catch him looking at me like he's surprised I'm actually here. I always look back. And I think, same, man, same.